Got the pleasure of introducing Scott Baker. Scott is going to teach us a little more about Google Palooza. We're on part 2. And I said, Scott, please slow down for those of us that are beginners. Turn it to warp speed for us. And so, Scott, welcome. We look forward to learning some more.
All right. Thank you, Cheryl. You're welcome. All right. So I'm going to work on the assumption that everyone has a laptop in front of them of some sort. And go ahead and log into your SEC Gmail. You can go through My SEC or go directly to the site, whatever your preference is. And everybody should have a handout. The handouts are front and back. There's a spot on the back for you to be able to take notes as well. So I appreciate everybody coming on a Friday morning. If you're a carryover from the Excel session, thanks to Jonathan for that. I learned some few things, and I thought I was an Excel Jedi Knight, but I am not worthy of Jonathan on that. So what we're going to cover today, if you came to the first Google Palooza Part 1 back at the beginning of the semester, we really looked at how to leverage Gmail and Google Calendar is what we focused on mostly, and how to leverage things that you can do at the college, whether you're an instructor, a staff member, administrator, whatever, to be able to use that. What I want to focus on today in Part 2 is using Google Drive. Okay, Google Drive is probably the most powerful thing that Google has set up and going for it. And at the college, we have Google Apps, so everyone knows you use Gmail for their college Gmail. But there's also a whole myriad of other applications that you can use. So today I'm only going to be touching on another part of that called Google Drive. So this will be an interactive portion. So if you didn't pre-register for the event, please go to the college website, and you can go up to the search and search for TOPS, T-O-P-S, and go in and register for it, because I'm getting ready to, as we go through today, I'm only going to send emails and stuff to people that pre-registered, so I don't want you to miss out on that interactive opportunity that we're going to have today. Then also for the survey, when we get done, for the first session and this session, you'll get separate surveys on what you thought, how things went today. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So what we're going to look at is what Google Drive is. I'm going to try to explain what it is because it's kind of nebulous sometimes as to what it is. Then we're going to look at Google Docs, and Google Docs is a subset of Google Drive. And then we're going to go through and look at some examples of how to use things in each of these applications. I'm going to ask some folks that I know that have used Google Drive to leverage instruction and administratively. I can show you some examples too if you like. But we're just going to build some examples from scratch. Then hopefully what this does is it primes you to think of how you can possibly use this in your work area. Okay, I can't show you every scenario everyone would want, but hopefully you'll see something and be like, hey, I know something I want to do with that. And I'm glad to do some one-on-one after the fact, and that's what I've done for several folks after we've done these in the past. Okay, so let's first talk about what Google Drive is and what it isn't. All right, so what is Google Drive? So I'm going to try to explain this the best I can. It's basically a way to store your files. And by default, if you think of Google as the cloud or whatever nebulous description you want to give it, Google Drive is basically a storage platform that stores files of different types. Okay, so how many of you use the P drive here to store your files on? Most of you probably do, or at least half of you, okay? For those of you that don't use the P drive, where do you store your files? Like on your computer or on Google Drive? How many of you just store your stuff on your particular computer? Okay, so the pros and cons of that. The pros are you've got them right there on your computer. Wherever you take that computer, you can always get to those files, right? Okay, so for a convenience sake, that's nice. What happens if that computer fails or the hard drive dies or you drop it in water? Okay, yeah, you're Janet summed it up. You are SOL. I'll let you figure out that acronym if you don't know it. So all of those files die with the computer. Okay, if you store your things on the P drive, which is a network drive attached to work, the nice thing about that is if your computer dies, you can still get to your files on the P drive, right? So they're there. Okay, if you lose a file, hypothetically, we can go into a backup and pull those back, which works most of the time, but sometimes depending on how old it is. But what's a challenge to the P drive? Yeah, you can only get to it here on campus when you connect, or unless you've got a remote desktop connection, you can get to it. What Google Drive does is it gives you the best of all of those worlds. Okay, Google Drive saves your files on your local computer. As long as you're connected to the internet, it'll sync those up with Google Drive in the cloud. okay? And then wherever you take your device, you can get to those files, okay? And Google does a really good job of backing things up too. So things I feel confident about is that my files, unless I delete them, typically just don't go missing or get lost. Now, I've been using Google Drive for almost 3 years now exclusively. I don't use the P drive at all, okay? So I'm not discouraging you from using the P drive, but for some of the convenience that I'm going to show you in a second, the Google Drive is really nice for that, okay? So Google Drive is a cloud, and it's also an application that runs on your computer. I'll kind of show you a graphic here in just a second that explains that a little bit better, okay? So what I want to get across is anything you store on the computer and that you store in Google Drive are always synchronized. The one thing that's nice that I really like is whether it be my desktop computer, my laptop computer, my tablet, my phone, if you have a smartphone or a tablet, it works for Android or for iOS or any of the Apple devices. It keeps those things synced up, and I can always get to them no matter where I'm at. Which is really handy. So I like to be able to go in, and sometimes I'm not at my desk, but I need to get to a file, okay? Now, the caveats with that are things that aren't in the Google format, like Google Docs or Google Sheets. You can't necessarily edit, but you can still view them. So if you have a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet, you can still view those from Google Drive on your device, but you might not be able to edit it. Now, I'll show you that in just a second as well. But the gist of it is, for storing your files and to be able to edit your files, Google Drive is a really nice solution across the board, okay? So the coolest part about it is the synchronization. Whenever I edit a file that's on my computer and I have it stored in my Google Drive app, okay, it will sync up to what's in the cloud, okay? Now, you can use the Google Drive web interface for some things, but when you're doing basic editing, if you need to edit Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, you can still edit those on the computer just like you do off your P drive or off your desktop or off your thumb drive. You can still edit those just the same. It just keeps those files synced up, okay? Does that make sense? This is I'm going to try to bring you in to how this works. So that's usually the most confusing part is like, what's the difference between using a Word file or a Google Doc? The gist of it is how you want to edit it, okay? It's all stored in the same place, okay? Now I'll show you some examples of how that synchronization works, okay? And the neat thing is too, I can start working on one file on my laptop, and then I've got to go. Then I can take my tablet out and keep on working on it or on my phone, okay? So that part's really nice as well, too, to be able to go across multiple devices. All right, how much space do you have? When I presented this in the spring, Google combined your Gmail and your Google Drive space together so that we got 30 gigs total. They just upped that to 40 gigs over the summer, and the good news is it's about to be unlimited. Okay, we just got the email notification for Google Apps users for education, for institutions. It's going to be unlimited. So any of you that were worried about file space, this should no longer be a worry. I have I keep pretty much everything on there, and I use about 10 or 12 gigs total. So I was getting a little bit concerned that I'm at 25% full, but now it's going to be unlimited. So now you can just save to your heart's content what's on there, which is nice. Okay. A couple of questions that people have is, are how safe is my data from hacking? Is it encrypted? Yes, Google Drive encrypts all the data over the web. So what's nice is even though the file gets synced between the two, it's always encrypted when it syncs it from your computer or your device to the cloud. So you don't have to worry about someone sitting in a cafe and grabbing your data as you're using it. Okay. So any questions so far on how it works? So let me show you some different things on how it works. Before I get specifically into Google Docs, I'm going to show you about working with Google Drive. Okay, so if you're logged into your Gmail account, so in this example, here's my Gmail account, and I was reading my message from Kirk Stevens about a USB Magic Hub. Thank you, Kirk. If you click up here in the top right-hand corner on the little grid, you'll see a menu that's going to come up. Okay, this is where you get to the other Google apps. Okay, the Google Drive is the green, yellow, and blue little triangle. So if you click on that, it'll open in a different tab on your browser, and should look something like this. Okay, I've set mine to be the new Google Drive look versus how it used to look was the old interface, because most of you, when you open it the first time, will probably be this new interface as you go in. So does everybody have Google Drive open? I like nodding heads. I like hands raised if you're stuck or there's a problem. Okay, but you can wave. Hey, how y'all doing? Everybody wave. So this is what you should see. Over on the left-hand side, you're going to see some general navigation. You'll see My Drive. You'll see Incoming, which used to be called Shared with Me. Neither names, which I like, because those are when you're sharing with other people, that's where things are going to show, or someone's sharing it with you. So Incoming makes me think that there's a grenade being thrown in my direction and someone's yelling Incoming. Recent is just like what recent files that you've used. Starred, I'll show you how you can mark different folders or files starred so you can get to them quickly. And then there's Trash. So Google Drive has its own separate trash from your computer to think for things that you throw away. Then it deletes them after 30 days, I think, just like on your Gmail. Okay. On My Drive, when it's selected, over on the right-hand side, I'll see all my files and folders. Okay. On the far right-hand side, I'll see recent activities, so it lets me see things that I've opened recently. And I can close that and see the full My Drive folder here. And by default, it sorts them by name, but you can see who owns those and the last modified date as well. Okay. Over on the left, you can click on the little triangle just to the left of My Drive and expand it, then also see your folders over here. So I can go down to a different folder. Notice that I've changed the color on Google Apps presentation from the default kind of grayish color to be orange. And how you do that is if you right click on the particular folder or a file, I can go to change color and I can select the color that I want that to be. So if you like to sort things by colors, you can do that as well at a quick glance. So I'm going to go into my Google Apps presentation folder, which I have set up for today, and then I have a Google Palooza Part 2 also set up in there. In the old interface, you could single click and it would open files and directories. In the new interface, it likes you to double click them, which is what most users are used to. A lot of people were double clicking hyperlinks anyway and only really paid attention to the first one. So long story short, they set it up to let you double click to open files and folders in the web interface. Okay? So this is my web UI for Google Drive. For me as a user, I use this interface probably the least of anything, other than going in and editing some basic Google documents that I have. But what I want you to see is that in this folder and file, I've got some different examples. I've got a subfolder, I've got an image, I've got some different Google documents as well. On the left-hand side, if you scroll down to the very bottom, if you scroll down, you'll see how much space that you have used. So I've got 12 gigabytes used on mine. And if you hold your mouse over it, it'll tell you your distribution between your Google Drive, your Gmail. And I really don't have anything. It shows me my Google Plus photos as well. Okay? I'm not a really big Google Plus user. Okay? Yeah. Now, other things that you can do, oops, let me stay on this page. Other things you can do is up here in the top right-hand corner are some different settings. Just like in your Gmail and calendar, you can go in and do different things. If you click on the little settings cog, you'll see an option called Download Drive. And what that does is it'll download the Google Drive app for your computer. Okay? Now, if you're using one of the cart laptops, don't do this on these and then set it up, because then all of your Google Drive data is going to pull to that laptop, and then whoever opens it next will have access to it. But if you click on Google Drive, it'll download the app. You just install the app. Then in your application menu, you'll, just like you go to Start and Programs, go and run Google Drive. And the first time you go in, it's going to ask you for your SEC credentials. So you put in your SEC email address, and it's going to ask you to log in, just like when you're going into My SEC. Then once you do that, it sets up the folder on your computer and your cloud to sync up those files together. So on mine, you can see I've got a Google Drive icon. And if I go into that, it shows me my entire Google Drive folder. So what I want to show you is in the cloud, if I go to My Drive, you can see, I'll just at a glance, I've got this 2014 video, academic awards, advising, articulation agreements. If I go to my Google Drive app, this is looking at files on my computer, I've got a Google Drive over here on the left. Now I'm on a Mac. If you're on a PC, when you open up Windows Explorer, like you go to My Computer and double click, you'll see like your favorites, your documents. You'll see a Google Drive shortcut there, and that's the shortcut to your Google Drive folder. So notice that on here, they're sorted alphabetically. You'll see a couple files, and I'll show you how those kind of sort different. But you see I've got that video file here, academic awards, advising, articulation agreements, what have you. And that mirrors to what's on my Google Drive account over here on the web, okay? If I scroll to the bottom of this one is where it starts showing me my files. So it just sorts them a little bit differently. Yeah. Yeah, you can't install more than one Google Drive app on a computer, but you can be in more than one Gmail account on your computer. Like for me, I've got my work Gmail, and I've also got other accounts. So I can, yeah, you can just click on your picture up here. If you don't have your picture, you can go and add different accounts. Now, and I use Chrome as my browser. Chrome, since it's a Google product, plays a lot nicer with Google Drive. So you can set up, I think, 2 or 3 Google Drive accounts attached to an email. After that, it says you can't be logged into more than 3 Drive accounts in one web browser session. But yes, you can use your personal Google Drive separate than your work. But when you download the app, so it syncs it to your computer, that part's going to be all together as one. Okay? Yes, Dennis.
Just a question.
Yes.
If you would,
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. If you delete, the question is, if you delete a file off the hard drive in the Google Drive app itself, does it delete it off the cloud? So yes, it does. It keeps those in sync. Now it does put it in the trash, okay? Puts it in the Google Drive trash. So yes, it keeps those synced up. So when you delete things, it manages it for you, so you don't have to do that separately.
if you empty the trash,
Yes, you'll see a menu pop up, and you can tell it, hey, don't delete that, delete off my computer, but don't delete it out of the cloud trash, and you can manage those, do those manually. But I think it asks you to do that. I usually delete them off. Usually when I delete them, I just always click OK, so I could do one here, and we could look at what the example is. Yes? Okay. Yeah, we'll look at the sharing. Typically, when there's a sharing issue, which I'll show you guys how we're going to share files and folders. Typically, what you'll see is on a PC in the bottom right-hand corner, you know, your little icons are. You'll see the little Google Drive icon, and it should launch on startup. Okay. If that's not logged in, if they're not logged into that, it's not syncing. So you could update it on your end, and you share it with them, and you might have to right-click on it and do resync or sign in. But that's usually the culprit, that the Google Drive's not running and keeping those synced up together. And a way to know for sure is they could log into the Google Drive web interface and look, and the file will probably be the current one, but on their local files it might not be. So that's typically the case, is making sure it runs. On the Mac, it's up here at the top, but it's just the same when you do the Google Drive. You'll see the little icon right there in the synchronization running. Okay, so I bored you to tears with all the techno behind the scenes stuff. But I just wanted you to show you that the files that you use locally sync up with what's going on the web. So let's look specifically at a couple of things, then I'll show you how to do some sharing, and we'll do that interactively in here. All right, so I'm going to go to my starred folder where I have my Google Palooza already saved, so I don't have to drill back down and find it. Okay, so let's talk first about Google Docs and what that does. Google Docs is basically Google's version of Word, okay? And the Docs is also the general description of all of the Google Docs applications, okay? I just like to call it Google Docs is like the Word, Sheets is like their version of Excel, Presentations is their version of PowerPoint, but then you also have Forms and Drawings, okay? We're not going to look at drawings today, but we are going to look at Forms, because Forms is probably one of the coolest ones we can do. And then you can actually import Microsoft Office versions into Google Drive, and then you can export from Google Drive or Google Docs versions back to Microsoft Office formats as well. And there's some instances where you like to do that. You can also PDF files easily from the Google documents and things of that nature. So, so when you're looking at that, just keep that in mind. And I'm not going to do the video since I'm not got any audio that's going to play. All right, so let's look at documents first. So that's the equivalent of Word that Google Drive uses. It has a lot of the features of Word. How many of you guys are like a superpower Word user? Okay. I encourage you to go in and tinker with Google Documents just to see if some of the things that you do. I'm not telling you, I still use Word for most of my editing, but where any of the Google Drive applications are nice is when you need to collaborate on things. Right now, if you have a Word document, and let's say I want Kirk to edit it and do something with it, what do I have to do? What's kind of your workflow if I need to have him look at a Word document? Okay, do I email it to him and then him have to edit it? Then when he gets it in the email, what does he have to do? He's got to download it, he's got to edit it, and then he's got to email me back, then I've got to download his, and then which one's the current one? I've got his and mine. Yeah, so I have version control issues that can happen. Then I've got to manage all these files. So for things that you need to share and collaborate on, the Google Docs makes that extremely easy. With spreadsheets, just the same. Even if you have it shared on the W drive and we have the same folder together, we need to edit the same file at the same time. Let's say Janet and I need to edit the same Word document. We can't both open it. She can open it first, and then if I try to open it off the W drive, it's going to tell me, hey, Janet's got this file open, you're going to have to wait your turn. Now, I can look at it and twiddle my thumbs, but then once she's done, it'll tell me. But you can't do that collaboration piece, which is nice. So let me show you how that works and how it might be able to be something that you like. All right, so I've got a Google Docs set up. This is my handouts, okay? I just want to show you this. I know that's small on the screen. I'm not asking you to read it. But this is when I went and edited. So this handout that you have, I created using Google Docs. If I want to create one from scratch, up in the top left-hand corner, I'm going to click on New. It's going to ask me what I want to create. Do I want to create a folder? Do I want to create a Google Doc, sheet, slide, or even more? There's more stuff, okay? So I'm going to start with Google Docs. It's going to give me a blank document, okay? Now this is, and I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see it. Is that big enough? Now, something that I always, when I'm teaching my Microsoft Office class, the rule of thumb for me is nothing should ever be untitled. It's always got a purpose. So the first thing you do is up in the top left-hand corner, click on Untitled Document and give it a title. Now, you can follow along if you want to go ahead and create a blank document. You can do that wherever you want to do it. You can delete it later. But I'm going to actually share this with you guys just to show you some of the collaboration feature in a second. Yes? Yeah, Drive is what houses docs. So when you're in Google Drive, so you're in My Drive, you can go to New. If you want to create a folder for this session, just create a folder, and then you can go in inside that folder, just like I'm doing for this one, and go back to New and just create a Google Doc, and that's going to create the Word Google Sheet. I'm sorry, Google Doc for it. So I'm going to call this one Test Document. Notice it has Test Document up here in the top right-hand corner. I could immediately star it, which means it's going to be on my starred menu on the left. I want to find it quickly. Okay. And then it's just like you're working in Word for the most part. You've got different menus. You've got File, Edit, View, Insert. So if you're old school on Word and you like the menus versus the ribbon, that's how this one's based. It does have some basic formatting across the top. Your undo, redo, print, zoom, text, font, size, bold, etc., etc. Okay? It does have tables built into it, which is nice. Different tools, spell checking, formatting, what have you. I encourage you just to browse through those and see what you like. Okay? So I'm just going to type in here, this is my test document. Okay? So now, this is not terribly exciting, but you get the gist of what it is. So I'm going to show you how you would export this as an Office format if you wanted to do that, and then I'm going to look at sharing it with all of you, and then I'm going to look at how we can all get in the same document, which is going to be mayhem at the moment, but just to show you that it can be done. Okay? Now, so let's say I've saved this, and now for whatever reason, I wanted this to be in Word format because I wanted to do something with it. Under the File menu, there's a Download As. You can download it as Word format. If you're really old school, you can go RTF. You can go PDF, which I use a lot. PDF will, for the most part, people can't edit that unless they have the PDF editing software. So you can download the file. So if I want to download it as a Word document, I just click that, and then it just asks me where on my computer I want to save it. and by default, it'll give it the same file name. It'll take out any spaces in the name, because spaces are evil in file names. If you do have to like the spaces, I encourage you to use the underscore, okay, because it's kind of like a fake space. It's like you're faking it out. Like I see a space, but it's not really a space. So you can download it as a document, okay? So next, I'm going to show you how I can share this with all of you if we wanted to be able to do some collaboration. Now, I'm going to share it with one person first, just so we have some guidelines, and then we're going to do it all together. Now, fortunately, I have all of your email addresses from who signed up. I go into my big list here, so let's go to the sign up responses. And this is from forms, which I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, I have all of your email addresses here. So to start with, I'm going to share it with one person. Okay. Who wants me to share it with them? Okay. 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 I'm going to just type in Jenny's name here, and I can just start typing in on the share, which I didn't show you how to do actually. Up in the top right hand corner, there's a big blue share button. You can click on that, because right now only I have access to that. And I'm going to click on it, and then I can just start typing in names. And this is tied to your Gmail address book that you have set up. So it's got the global list from the college on here. So I can go into Jenny, and then I'm going to tell her, hey, you can edit this, you can comment on it, or you can view it. Okay, I'm going to give her full editing privileges. I'm going to put in here a message that says, here you go. And it's going to, when I hit send, it's going to notify her via email, because I'm leaving this box checked to send. And what she's going to get is an email that's going to say, Scott Baker has shared the following document with you. Okay. So Jeannie, did you get the email? She's verified she got it. So if you'll click on that email link, and then what you're going to see up here is now, did you see the little thing just appeared that shows that she's in the document? And now she can actually edit this thing at the same time as I can. Now, as most of you know in Word, that's kind of chaotic, because Word's kind of, you're always locked into where you're at on a page. So it can get a little bit hectic when you're doing that. We can actually chat within this document. So I can click on the little chat icon up here, and we can chat back and forth as we're editing. Okay. Now, old school, you would call each other, right? But now we can do messaging. So we can message kind of in here inside the document, which is nice. Okay. Everybody feel good about the sharing? So that shares it one-on-one between myself and Jenny. Okay. Now, if I wanted to share it with everybody, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Okay. If I wanted to share it with specific people, what I would do is I would go in. Now, I could type in a bunch of email addresses, but fortunately, I have everyone who signed up. I'm not going to take roll. I'm going to copy that list, that email address from this spreadsheet that I've got. I'm going to share. I'm going to paste. I'm just going to put all of your email addresses in there. And only this list are the only specific people that it's shared with, okay? So at this point, all of you should get an email. So click over back to your Gmail tab, and we'll let the chaos begin on going in. And what you're going to see is going to be like a fireworks show up here on the top as people start logging in. And you'll see why with a Google Doc, it's not always good to share those, because formatting gets crazy, because people can just start doing crazy things, and there's no method to the madness. Okay. Okay. So everybody's in there and going nuts. Okay. Okay. So the good thing is you can share this with a lot of people. The bad thing is you can share this with a lot of people real time in a Word document, okay, or in a Google document. Okay. All right.
The document gets more.
Yeah.
Like when we were
Right.
and because that was one massive
Right.
flow.
Yeah, that's a good point. As more people are in at the same time, it will start to churn a little bit. It's not terrible or make it not usable, but it can slow it down based on the complexity of the document. Okay. So everybody got their test document out of their system? Okay. All right. So now let's say I want to I want to share this document, but I don't need to share it specifically with people. I can go in and revoke access to everyone on this, but I'm not going to. Question, yes. Yes. So everybody get out of the document. Get out. I cast you from the document. Okay? So now it's mayhem, and I'm like, man, I really wish I had this back to how I had it originally, or there was some issue. Over on the file menu, you can go down and select See Revision History for your keyboard shortcut lever. On the Mac, it's Command Option Shift G, which you'll never remember. I'm not sure it is on Windows. But the revision history then over on my right brings up the revision history. So I can go in, so if I wanted to see what Cheryl Davids did, and I can go to any revision, and notice that it's going to highlight. So for this one I'm on right here at 1047, it colors each of the users, and I can see over here in the document what they were actually typing, okay, or what change they make. So I can go back at any point and restore that version of the document and click on Restore that revision, and it'll bring it back to how it was. So you can kind of step back in time, which is really nice. I think if you've got editing privileges, you can do that, but I'm not sure if it has to be maybe only the owner can do that of the document. So look, you guys go under File and do See Revision History and see if you can see the same thing, or if it's just me. It may just be me as the owner of the document. Do any of you see revision history over there? No? Okay, so that's a good question. So apparently only the owner can revert back, which is also a good thing. You can? Okay, can somebody pick so Jeanette, you pick one of the changes and click Restore this revision. Okay, so yeah, so anyone you leave editing privileges to, that's a good question, can set that revision back. Okay? Now if you want to be a little bit looser with your sharing and not have to be shared with specific people, you can, when you click on Share, up in the top left hand or in the top right hand corner of the share screen, if it'll come up. Error. Ooh, at least it's not a blue screen of death. Okay. Up in the top right hand corner, I can click on Get Shareable Link. And when I do that, what it's going to default to is people at Southwestern Community College can view, which means you have to be a user on our Google Apps branch. And then you can only view the document. Okay, I can say people that are off the ranch can view it as well. If I click more, I can go in here and say anyone with the link can view it. So if you have someone that's a non-Southwestern user, can go in and view that as well. So let's say I wanted to do that. I can click Save, and then I can just copy that link right there, and then in an email, you can see it in an email. You can do it a couple different ways. You can just paste the link, which is a big ugly gobbledygook thing. And it usually links it, but I'm always paranoid and I click on the insert link and make sure it's blue. But then they could just click on that link and they can get to the document. Or you can do it the more like web-friendly format, is type in your text, highlight the text itself, then click on the little insert link button, then paste your link to it. Then in the email, it's just a link on that text instead of it being that big long bunch of letters and numbers. Yes? Yeah, they'll have to be a Google user to be in there and go in there and do it. Yeah. Not to view it. You can send that to Yahoo, Hotmail, what have you. But then if you want to give them editing privileges, they're going to have to do it. And they can sign up for Google Drive with using a regular email account as well. So yeah, that could be some hoops they have to jump through. Yes? Yes. You want to... Yeah, so let's say you want to rescind it being shared, okay? So now, right now I've got it shared with all these people that have the link, okay? So what I can do is go in and go to advanced. Yeah, and I can start revoking people from this list, or I can just unshare it altogether with anyone that's on there. So let's say, Claudia, you've been bad and you don't want to get it anymore, so I can remove you from the list. Okay, and David Myers, you're on the list too, and Jeanette. Okay, I can revoke all of those and save changes for that. Yeah, that takes it off the shared with me, or the incoming for those people should not see that anymore that you've shared it with. But people that still have that link could view it. So I want to remember that I set that up. I want to go in and change that as well to be off, which means only those specific people that I sent it to. Okay. So the good thing is you can share these things easily. The bad thing is you can share it easily, and sometimes you lose track of who you shared things with as well. And that's one of the things I don't necessarily like about Google Drive, is that when a lot of people start sharing stuff with you, what'll happen is you'll get a bunch of stuff, and I'll show you mine as an example. On my incoming, which might also be called shared with me, I have all these documents that people have shared with me, okay? And when you're trying to find something, that can get cumbersome. Now, what I do is if I want it to be somewhere specific, so Bethany shared this with me about this sign up, I could actually take her file and drag and drop. Let's see. I can take it, I should be able to drag it and drop it. It's not playing very nicely. And I can drop it in one of my Google Drive folders, and then it still keeps it in the same place for her, but then it puts it in my Google Drive folder so I remember where it is, rather than just this incoming or shared with me folder. Does that make sense? And it still syncs it up with your computer. Things that are shared with you don't sync up to your computer unless you drag and drop it in one of those folders. Okay? But Google Drive manages the sharing for you. Yeah, you can also delete. Yes, that's right. But the owner will still maintain the file, but you can delete it off of your incoming, so it's no longer shared with you. Yes. There's another question, Jeanette? Okay. Yeah. So that's probably the most consternation people have, is like, I go to this and I got all these things shared with me, and that's just annoying. You can go in and just delete them off that list if you don't need to have them anymore, or put them in a specific folder where you're going to be able to find them. Okay. Does everybody feel good with the Google Docs? Okay. Yes.
If you delete it, share it with you, and you delete it.
No, it just deletes it off your Google Drive list. Yeah, unless they've given you ownership privileges, then if you're the owner of the file and you delete it, then it goes away from everybody's as well. Okay, unless they've downloaded or saved it separately. Okay, so that's Google Docs. Let's look at.
One more comment about Docs.
Yes.
It took me a year to know.
Like in the Google Drive app?
No, I'm sorry, in the web interface.
Okay.
Someone has shared a new
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So if it's new, that means.
subtle, but
Yeah. If you've not looked at it. Okay, that's a good point. Yes. Yeah. There's a little bit of lag that happens. Yeah. Okay. So now you're out.
Yeah, I got to replace that.
Okay. Yes. If you delete it, no, because if you put it, as long as it's not, if you empty your trash, I think it goes away. If you've deleted it, so let's say I've deleted this file, test document, and you shared it with me, and then I've deleted it, and then I have to go back to the email to go to the link. I think it'll say it can't be found on there. I think I've not tested that scenario though. That's a good one to look at. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. So let's look at Google Sheets. It's just the same way as Google Docs are. Google Sheets or spreadsheets. I won't spend a whole lot of time in it, but I just want to show you. A lot of people like to use Google Sheets, and I prefer it when you're doing some collaboration because you don't have that mayhem of Word. People can edit different cells in different areas at the same time. So if you need to set up a table, it's really nice. People to edit different cells in that as well. I have, from an instructional example, One is for advising. If you have a program that you have multiple advisors that go in, Google Sheets is really nice to where you can share a student's advisee information so that if you're seeing the student, but I know that, let's say that Jody is advising that student, but she's not there and I'm seeing them, I can go in if she's got this Google Sheet set up for them to do advising and go in and plug that in. And then whenever I update it, when she comes back and looks at it again, it'll be updated with whatever I put in there, okay? And that works from, administratively too. If you've got any type of data that you need to share, that makes it nice. So to create a new sheet, I'm just going to go down to New and select Google Sheets. And it gives me a blank spreadsheet, okay? What's the first rule of thumb when you create a new one? Give it a name. You have to take the I will always name my document oath, okay? There you go. Okay, and you'll notice that this looks very much like Excel. It does, for the layperson, I would say it does probably 98% of what you need it to do that Excel can do. Again, if you like using Excel, you don't have to use Google Sheets, but the collaboration part is what's really nice. Now, there's some really powerful things. I'm not going to show you, but I'll give an example. As in the Career Technologies division, Claudia and I keep a master spreadsheet on all the division budgets. So we have an overall, and then we have each program budget. So I've got automotive, criminal justice, down the line. Then as we do updates on that, it keeps all the budget real time, okay? But let's say I want Kurt to be able to get to his cybercrime, but I don't want him to see what's happening in business administration. I set up a different sheet that I shared with him, and I just told it to populate the data from his one sheet only into that. Then it updates his real time when he goes in and looks at it. Now you can do that with Excel, but Google Sheets makes that really easy to do. That's a kind of a powerful feature. It's kind of like the VLOOKUP that Jonathan showed in the last session. But there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. But the main gist of why you would use Google Sheets is for collaboration, or if I want to be able to get to and edit these things on multiple devices easily. Okay. Again, at work you've got some functions just like Jonathan was showing. If I want to go in, I can type in equals sum. It doesn't have some of the keyboard shortcuts that Excel has, but I can still do different things in it. Where I wanted to do sums, any type, basically all the functions are in there. It has VLOOKUP and all those sort of things in it too. But some of the user interface is not as polished as Microsoft Office. So if you're a power user, I would say probably stick with Excel. But for most of the things that you want to be able to do, I'm going to guess that Google Sheets can do that as well. Okay. I'm not going to do the sharing feature of this because I think that we all get it, right? Okay. The next one is Google Presentations. I'll just speak to this briefly. It's called Google Slides now. If I click on Google Slides, it basically will open up a blank web version of a PowerPoint where I can go in and create a presentation. This one's nice if you have multiple people that need to edit the same presentation and you're like a OCD like I am with making sure everybody uses the same font, we're using the same template, and I don't have to merge them all together. You can go in and share a presentation with multiple people, and each of you edit your own slides. You could set up all the slides beforehand, so I could have one for each person, and you go in and edit that as well. Okay? Any questions on Google Slides? That was very quick. That was 30 seconds or less, which qualifies as real quick in my mind. Okay? The next and probably most powerful feature of Google Docs is Google Forms. Okay, Aaron and I were talking that's not a very fun name. Google Forms just sounds boring. It should be Google Fun. Like forms are really cool. Okay, so what Forms does is it lets you go in and do several things, but you got to get your mind around a couple things with Google Forms. Okay, Google Forms has several different layers to it. Okay, you have and when I say form, it's any type of thing you need people to respond to. Okay, or fill out or say yes, no. When you participated in this workshop, you went to a Google form and you put in your name and clicked yes and hit submit. That was pretty basic. Okay, so the form itself is just a vanilla black and white. I put in some information and I fill what I want to get from the user. Then when I send it out or post it, I set what theme I want with it. So that makes it look pretty. So the ones for these, we had like a little desk at the top with the pencil and the cup of coffee. So it looks nice. Okay. And people can go to either a web page for it or you can embed it in an email that'll go out to folks to get to it. Okay? And then on the back end, you have a spreadsheet that form responses will be tied to. Okay? So you have your basic form, you have it looking pretty when it goes out to people, and then when they submit stuff, you have a spreadsheet on the back end that kind of stores all this stuff, okay? So Google Fun, as we'll call it from this point, will let you collect responses from people on various things. Oops, wrong button. So let's look at a basic Google form and what it can do. And I encourage you to play along with this because I want you to kind of create some. So I'm going to go to New. I'm going to select More and select Google Forms. And just like with the other Google documents, it brings up an untitled form. First rule of thumb, give it a name. Sample form, and I'll click on OK. Now, one thing that Google Forms does, and they keep adding to this as it goes along. Since I did this presentation last, they've added several new features to Google Forms. Up at the very top in the form settings, you can require people at the college to log in, just like for this workshop. Notice it captured your SEC data when you went in, so that I know when people, even though I had you enter your name, I've got the username for everyone that registered for the workshop, okay? Because I don't trust everybody to put their name in right, is the bottom line. That way I would have their email addresses. So at SEC, the username that it captures is their full email address, so that's nice to be able to then I don't have to worry about someone typing it wrong if they typed it in manually. Okay, and it does put the timestamp of when they submitted, so I can see who waited till the last second. Let's scroll down. Okay, so I had some people that may have come today, and that's fine, but it does put the date timestamp with it as well. Okay, so you can require people at SEC, but what this means is you can't send it to folks off campus because if they're not an employee. Okay, you can have it automatically connect their username, okay, which grabs their email address. If you have a multi-page form, you can show progress. If you've ever done like a what's the one popular form that a lot of people use that mail out? Yeah, SurveyMonkey has a little thing as it goes across. So if you only have it display one question at a time, which you can do, kind of gives them the status bar. Because if you answer 3 questions and your bar hadn't moved, you're bailing out. Okay, you're not going to answer a bunch of questions. Yeah, I like to show them all on one page. Typically, if it's not too long, you can scroll down and do a preview of how painful this survey is going to be. You can, one thing that they did new that we used to not have, and Dennis and I had this discussion when we were thinking about using this for an application. Before, there's no way to only let them do one entry per person, but now you can allow only one response per person. But in order to do that, you have to require the login, okay? And you can shuffle question order if you want to do that as well. So let's look at the basics of how this works. So I'm going to scroll down to the form section. And by default, it'll give the form name the same name as the file, but you could make that different. You can give a form description, which I encourage you to do. Give them the reason why they're doing this. Just like when you filled out this form, it had the presenter and the date and what it was about. So I encourage you to put that in there. For the actual form itself, it's very basic to use. You have question titles, you can do some help text, and then the question type. Okay? The question type gives you several different choices. You can do text, paragraph text, which is basically like a narrative, multiple choice, check boxes, what have you. So I'm going to first do it as a multiple choice. So, what is your favorite color? I think that's a standard when anybody demonstrates these things. Okay? You can go down, and in the multiple choice, it gives you the options. So I'm going to force them to have to choose. Now I'm just clicking in this cell, I'm hitting tab, and it takes me down to the next one. If I hit enter, it'll also take me down to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to give them those 4 choices, and I'm going to also add an other and let them type in an answer, okay? Or you can take that out and it forces them to pick one of those. If this is a required answer, just put a check in that box, okay? There's some advanced settings for each question type that you can go to that I could shuffle that. For a multiple choice, I can shuffle the order that those appear, which is nice that you can not just shuffle the questions, but you can shuffle the responses for a different one. So if someone's looking over the shoulder, ooh, number 1's A, well, this A may be different than that one, okay? Now, this is not to supplant you from using Blackboard for doing testing and things of that nature, but you can use this you could use this if you wanted to. But I typically use this in a more casual manner. You could. I've not used it as testing in the classroom, but you could do it that way. I don't know a way to prevent them from seeing each other's screens, but if you do shuffle question order and shuffle response order, you're going to extremely minimize any type of cheating that's going to happen, okay? But I can't guarantee that. I mean, it depends on how close the computers are, space out just some basic logistics in the classroom. But I think doing the shuffling will probably prevent that from happening, okay? So I'm going to make that a required question. And now I've got one question on my form. I'm going to scroll down, and then I'm going to go to Add Item, which lets me create another one. So what kind of question do you want this to be? Let's say on this one, I'm going to do a scale. How happy are you? And I'm going to do a scale from 1 to 10. And then you can label those. You need to do at least the two bookends on it. So that way they'll know. And I'm going to make this a required question. Okay. Hopefully at this point you get the gist and you can play with the different questions. So now this is the vanilla back end that I've got done. The very last thing that I can look at is the confirmation page. It doesn't give me the show link to submit another response because I checked only allow one response per person. But if that were unchecked, I can let them submit another response. Okay, so you have to pick one or the other. You can do publish and show a public link to form results. I usually don't do that unless you really want people to be able to see that. And then you can allow them to edit it after they submit or not. Okay. So now I'm done with my form. Now I need to make it look pretty for who I'm going to send it to. Okay. So this is the window dressing portion of the presentation. You go up and click Change Theme. And when you do that, over on the right, it's going to give you some different themes. Okay. Now, I'd encourage you not to go nuts here, but if you have one set up from a different form, you can. The basic one kind of matches our colors here at the college, so if you want to have it match that, you can do it. But you can scroll down and see some different ones here that look nice. So if David and Hunter were going to send one out, they might pick the cars and trucks form. Okay. All right, and then you get a preview over on the left-hand side of what that's going to look like. Okay. Once you're done with the theme of your choice, you can. I'll just click on Change Theme and it should go away. Or not. I think since I've got them zoomed in, it's putting back. Okay, yeah, so it does change as soon as I click that, you're right. All right, so now I've changed my theme to whatever I want it to be. So now you need to get it out to people, okay? There's a couple different ways that you can do this, okay? First, before you send it out, this is like print preview from anything, click on View Live Form, okay? And it's going to open up a different web browser tab. And this is what people are going to see if they click on a link and go to the web page. Okay. Now, you could click on that address right there and copy it and paste it, which is kind of cumbersome if you're a mouse spaz especially. But you can click on Send Form up here. And then a cool thing that they've done with forms is I can click in here and get the long link to it. And now they've let you do a short URL, which does the shorter version. And then it just tells you, hey, press Control-C or Command-C on a Mac to copy. Then I can just paste that link on an email that I'm going to send out. Okay. I can also send the form via email. Okay. And when you do that, that's going to embed the form in the email. So you probably, if you've ever gotten one from me or from someone, you'll see in your email message the form's actually sitting in there. When you submit, it still takes you to a different page that you have to confirm the submission. But if you send it via email from here, it will be embedded in the form. And you can go in to customize the message in the subject. By default, the subject line will be the name of the form, and then you can customize the message there as well that you're going to send with it. Okay? If you don't want to do it that way, I can simply copy the link, and then if I'm in my email, I can just paste that link to it, and then they'll get it. Okay? Don't worry about it if you're putting it on a web page. There is an embed option as well if you want to get crazy. You can embed the form, which is really nice, and it gives you this cool code. You can pick pixel width and height, but for most of you, you're probably not going to use that portion, but you can if you want to. Go in Blackboard. Yeah, that's a good example, Kirk. you can go into Blackboard and do that. I don't know what the maximum width you can do. I'll lean on my Blackboard experts. Is there any pixel width max? I'd use the default. I wouldn't go over 800 wide typically on the forms, and it should display fine. But typically you want to set the height to be more. So I would test embedding it. 500 will not be tall enough. You're probably going to be in the 2,000, 3,000 range in pixels. So I recommend you put it in Blackboard, embed it, look at it first, and make sure there's not a scroll up and down that's embedded in it, because that can create some confusion. Okay? Do it till there's at least some white space at the bottom of it. I've clicked on the share or send form, up in the top right hand corner. And in the send form, there's embed up here. Just have edit right here. Oh, you're probably in the live. I bet you're in the live. Are you here in the live form? Yeah, just close the tab for the live form and get back to like you're in the edit form. Or click that edit form button. And you should be back in like this edit mode. Does that work for you? Okay. All right. So that's how you can send a form out. Okay. So now people start responding to your form, and you want to be able to get to it. If you click view responses, that's going to take you into the spreadsheet. But it also keeps all the responses embedded in this form itself. I can see that there's no responses to this, but if I click on my responses menu, I can click on view summary of responses, and it'll show me a visual representation. Let me do one that actually has some data with it. I'm going to go to the one that was the sign up for today. 74 people responded to this. And I'm going to click on summary of responses. And I can see, now this one's kind of silly because there's only one response. But you can see visual representations. I can see the days that most people responded and things of that nature. So here's all the people that did initially. There's a little bit of swell, and then there's a big, oh yeah, I'm going. Okay. Now, if I want to look at more extensive data on the form, I click on view responses, and what that's going to do is it creates a spreadsheet in the same folder where you had your form saved. It'll have the same form name. Notice it's called sample form, and it puts responses in parentheses beside it. And it creates a spreadsheet where each column header is your questions. Okay? I warn you, if you have a big narrative that you don't want to go in, and you'll need to readjust your column widths to be able to do that. Okay? So that's Google Forms, right? Which is, in my information, the coolest feature of Google Drive. If you have other information that you want to go to, there's Google Help has their own YouTube channel. There's some other cool things you can do. There's some add-ons for Google Drive. There's Hello Fax, where you can fax 50 free things a month from it. You can get envelopes for Google Docs. There's an app called Hello Sign where you can do digitally signed documents for free. They'll let you do 3 a month for that sort of thing. Okay? Like I said, if anyone has any questions and this primes you up to want to be able to use it, just let me know. We do have a couple of Google Drive experts on campus, but I'm glad to sit down with you one-on-one and look at how you want to use it. We'll email out everybody the survey, but I appreciate everyone coming, and I appreciate your time. And be sure to get your laptops back in the appropriate cart. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You don't